connection?
With the Palästinaamt. Yes. I think all this is missing what I said about the executive. We had an executive which was where we had representatives of all the important Zionist and other Jewish organizations like the Reichsvertretung for Jews from Germany, the Palästinaamt, the Zionist Federation, and the youth movements, and I said that Burt was the representative of the Orthodox youth movements, and this, by the way, which I didn't say before, the question of the klita of the Orthodox applicants was a very, very difficult one, because at that time there were so few Orthodox kibbutzim in the country that there were simply not enough places for all the Orthodox applicants.
That's what you said in the first interview.
Yes?
Yes.
So I don't need to talk about that again.
So I ask you another question, really. If the financial improvement, short financial improvement of a part of German Jews which utilized the prosperity created by the Hitler movement at the beginning of their rule influenced also your work, and you became you know about that, and you knew about that.
No, I really, actually, I'm
Your husband told me about it.
That he told you about it. I mean, he should have known, but I wasn't aware that because the laws which came into being gradually until Nuremberg then brought them suddenly to another situation, were such that most of the Jewish community became very quickly poorer and poorer. But he must have referred to something which happened right at the beginning, I should think.
He said that the first 2-3 years.
The first 2-3 years.
And later it changed by the first 2-3 years. Mm-hmm. And you said that...
I said it wasn't too difficult to raise money amongst the Jews in Germany. This may have some connection, this observation of his.
And another question I wanted to ask you: what was your relationship with the non-Zionist youth movement in Germany? Let us say the movement led by Tietz before his death, etc.
Tietz is not a very good example for non-Zionist youth movement, because he, towards the end of his life,
became almost Zionist.
He saw himself that the Zionists had something to offer to the youth movements and not the other countries. And I don't know, you know this?
I read his book. Yes, yes.
So he was really, I should say, the bridge between the non-Zionist and Zionist youth movements. But the Kameraden and later on Werkleute, that was really the circle of youngsters who were around him.
Yes.
So they became all Zionists.
And the others?
The others...
The BDJJ proper, let us say.
The what?
The Bund Deutsch-Jüdische Jugend.
Well, I must say that I don't know much what happened to them. I think we didn't take them too seriously, and they really tried very hard to keep their position in Germany, but of course that couldn't go on for long, and they had no common aim which really kept them together. And when they saw that their hope of remaining in Germany was in vain, then I think these movements all split up. But I had so little contact with them that I really am not competent to talk about what happened to them.
May you tell us, please, about your own experience and what changed before 35 and after 35? How did you feel the change and how did you experience it? You were a Zionist, so you were very busy with Aliyat Tanor, with the Jewish Aliyah, and you didn't have much time to deal with the general questions, general problem of German Jewry. But how did you experience really this change, certainly becoming a citizen of second grade?
Well, 35 wasn't suddenly, because it was...
Wasn't suddenly, but the Nuremberg law was suddenly.
I remember that by chance, whilst the Nuremberg assembly went on and the laws were published, I was on a youth aliyah mission in Holland. And the Dutch Jews with whom I had to deal at the time, with the youth aliyah committee there and organizing fundraising with them, they all said to me, well, you would never go back now to Germany, this is impossible to live there and to work there. So they couldn't understand that I wouldn't suddenly abandon all my colleagues and disappear. They were all against it that I should go back. But for me that was also out of the question, because it had become so much more urgent to help in Germany. When I came back, there was a real depression amongst German Jews, there was no doubt about it, because with the Nuremberg laws they finally understood that this was not something which was passing and you had only to be patient and then one day it would be over. They then finally understood that this was their fate, that to live in a country, as you say, as second-grade citizens. And it was even worse than second-grade citizen, because it was clear that the entire Jewish community was in mortal danger, and whoever could not manage to leave for some other country was hopeless. And from that time onwards, of course, very many parents came to Youth Aliyah and implored us to take their children out. But we were always limited with the numbers of certificates which we got. And there was also sometimes started I don't know exactly when, the discussion whether Youth Aliyah should be sent with Aliyah Beit. And Henrietta Solt was very much against it, because she said it was much too dangerous. And so we limited our work to those who could get certificates, and the others, then we started to create Hachsharot in the...
Yes, about this you talked.
Yes.
Another question really that does exist here, and I wanted to ask you about, how much did you support youngsters? You want to really go against the wishes of their parents. I understand you had such things.
There were such things, no doubt about it. But it was, I should say, it was not in the framework of my task to discuss this matter with the parents, because the Arbeitsgemeinschaft für Kinder- und Jugendaliyah, which I headed, was composed of Jüdische Jugendhilfe, Ben-Shemen Komitee and Ahava Komitee. And the Jüdische Jugendhilfe, they were mostly, with the exception of Recha Freier, very young people who accepted the applications and who had the contact with the parents. And I did know that when parents came and said that they didn't want to send their child, and we thought that the child was especially suitable for youth aliyah, then those colleagues of ours tried to persuade the parents. But in this respect, I have no direct experience, because these talks were usually done by my colleagues in the Jugendhilfe.
Without the approval of the parents, it was impossible to send a child.
That's right.
That's right.
That's right.
Because the German law.
I don't know whether there was a German law. I don't think so. But for instance, there were, for a very long time, there were contracts which had to be signed by the parents. And as I said before, the parents who could pay had to pay. And this was also the responsibility, was to accept responsibility for children to send to Palestine from Germany. It had to be to have a juridical framework, and I believe that the parents always had to sign a certain contract. How long this was possible, I don't know, because in the end, after the 9th of November, that was 38, everything became such a chaos that about contracts and juridical signing of contracts, that was out of the question. But that was already in 38, when fortunately, I must say, I was already in London, and our colleagues in Berlin had to go underground, and we had quickly to take over.
You're talking about after Kristallnacht?
That was after Kristallnacht.
After Kristallnacht. But before, I'm talking more about before Kristallnacht, because you left before Kristallnacht.
Yes,
I understand.
Yeah.
You left before Kristallnacht.
I left Germany before Kristallnacht, but not the youth aliyah.
No, you left Germany for Kristallnacht. Yeah. How long did you maintain any contact with non-Jews? Your husband told me about his contacts, but it's very completely different.
You mean
because
now socially, or with authorities, organizations?
Also socially, and also with authorities and organizations.
Yeah. Well, socially, I must say, as I was in Zionist circles for many, many years, all the friends, my friends were Jewish. My parents in Hamburg had a lot of Christian friends and social contact, but they left very soon, so that...
When did they leave?
They left, first of all, for Holland in 34, I believe. My father was chucked out on the 1st of April 33, and towards the end of 33 they left for Holland, and in 35 for the United States. But they didn't live then in Germany anymore. My mother came back to dissolve the flat, but they were already abroad. And I was the last one of the family who was still in Berlin.
I understand for your parents this was a terrible shock that they had to leave Germany.
For my parents,
because you told me, as your father said, it's not necessary to learn even another language.
Yeah, it was a terrible shock.
But they recognized the reality.
Yes. Then that fortunately, that they did. And but with regard to contact with German authorities,
so you didn't have any kind of social contact with Christians.
Not at that time. No. The Zionists, also before Hitler, socially lived very much amongst themselves.
In the big cities?
In the big cities.
In small cities was different.
Yeah, certainly, yes. But I never lived in a small city. I lived in Breslau, Hamburg, and Berlin.
So would you say the Zionists created a certain kind of ghetto even before Hitler came to power?
We didn't feel it as ghetto, because this circle was not small. But we lived amongst ourselves, yes.
And you
although I must say that, for instance, we went sometimes to big balls in Berlin, the artist balls and things like that, and this was, although the percentage of the Jews was very high there, or the socialist ball was a famous happening in Berlin at the time, to which many Jews went. But this were, so to say, public balls where not everybody could come, but there were Jews and Christians together. But the percentage of Jews was
How long?
Very high.
How long?
How long we went there?
Now, how long this certain kind of circle it exists?
You mean the Zionist circle? Or
No,
the balls.
Yeah.
Well, they ceased, of course, with Hitler coming to power. Because that were, so to say, the artists and progressive circles and the socialist ball that all had to stop immediately.
Immediately. And you want to talk about your official or your contact with official contact with authorities?
Well, our contact with authorities, that was, I think, with non-Jewish authorities was mainly with the police and the secret police and
the Gestapo.
The Gestapo, yes. Otherwise, and of course for transfer permission with the finance ministry and very official negotiations, which were also partly handled for us by the representatives of the Reichsvertretung or of the Zionist movement. We had, in one respect, Yusalia had luck, because for a very long time the Nazis didn't take the woman seriously. So as Yusalia, and especially the Arbeitsgemeinschaft für Kinder und Yusalia, was almost exclusively run by women, they left us alone for a very long time. So that we had not this constant bother by them, with the exception of this one woman who was imprisoned because she did fundraising and they thought she had done it against the law. But later on, after they had discovered us, and I was brought before Eichmann, and he forbade me to continue my work.
Yes, I know.
Then
you thought about it.
Yes. This changed the whole situation.
Did you have any contact with Halbjuden in the Jugendalliance this time?
We had some Halbjuden in Yusalia.
Yes.
Yes. Not many, but we had some.
But it didn't create problems.
If it created problems, it created the problems here, not in Germany.
Yes.
But at that time, there was not yet like this today here, that the Jews themselves say whoever has not a Jewish mother is not a Jew. I mean, whoever was in danger in Germany because if he was half a Jew or a quarter of a Jew, as the Nazis didn't make any difference, we didn't make it either.
You accepted everybody who identified himself as a Jew.
Yeah.
And let him go to Israel if it was necessary. And one of the very important questions really is how long leaders should stay.
Yeah, that's right.
And really, I would ask you to tell us, what was your opinion in this very important field? How long leaders really should stay? Or make Aliyah themselves, because also they had to save themselves. Not everybody was ready to stay until he was deported to Auschwitz. There were some rabbis of this kind, but what was the opinion in your circles? Use Aliyah and etc.
There were two different attitudes which you have to acknowledge. There was, for instance, we thought that it was important that the Madrich, who had been on Hachshara together with his youth group and had lived with them for quite some time together, should go with them on Aliyah in order to assist them in the adjustment here. And for instance, the first Madrich who went with the first youth Aliyah group was Hanoch Renaud now.
Hanan Renaud, still with us here.
Yes. And I know that the opinion here was also that if the Madrich has very close personal contact with this group, that he should come with his group on Aliyah, also to be, so to say, the liaison officer between the group and the kibbutz, or the group and the Mossad. This helped the groups considerably to adjust to life here. It's quite a different situation with regard to what you call leaders, people who were in responsible positions in the Zionist movement, whether they should go or not. There, I don't know whether my husband mentioned it to you, there was an understanding, a kind of an agreement between all the leading people that they would not go on Aliyah before it hasn't been discussed and agreed upon amongst all of us. So that, so to say, morally, nobody of this sort was allowed to disappear on Aliyah without the consent of the others. And for instance, after Eichmann had told me to leave Aliyah alone and not to continue working, the situation was such, and it was accepted by us, that I couldn't have decided by myself, so I disappeared tomorrow. We sat together the night after this happened and decided what should be done. It was decided that the one liaison officer to the Gestapo, who had access to some people who were in the know, should find out how endangered I was. If it was necessary to disappear quickly, illegally, or whether I could go officially on Aliyah.
Yes.
So these were two very different situations. The Madrichim of...
Okay.
So you understood the difference in the situation of the Madrichim,
Yes.
who should not leave their groups alone
Yes.
when going on Aliyah, and the situation of the leaders of organizations and administrative work and fundraising and negotiations. And for instance, I was a great lot abroad to assist the Youth Aliyah committees to raise the money which went directly to Palestine for Youth Aliyah. And this going abroad all the time, of course, also raised the suspicion of the secret police, what I am always doing abroad. And but I knew, and we had all accepted it, that we would stay as long as we could do something. The moment when we could not be any longer of any help, it was no use to stay in Germany.
My concluding question deals with the relationship between you and the Jews abroad. Did you have? I understand that you did have a relationship with Jews abroad regarding the Mittleren Hachshara, etc., etc., in order to organize the stay of kids in other countries until they will get certificates. But did you have also relationship with Jews abroad in more enlarged regions, regarding the attitudes of the German Jewry at all? Or did you only deal with when you were abroad, or when you met Jews from abroad, did you only deal with your special problem of the Jews Aliyah, or all the other things?
Well, we had to be, if we were abroad, we had to be extremely careful, because the Nazis had people everywhere to watch us. And therefore, it was advisable, especially in public of course, not to do anything which would mean that our work in Germany would be damaged by the secret police. I therefore concentrated mainly, or almost exclusively, on my task to organize the Youth Aliyah committees, to help them with the fundraising, to give them as much information about Palestine and the work in Palestine as at all possible, and of course in private conversations to explain the situation of the Jews in Germany. That is quite clear.
What does it mean private conversations? Only people you believe in?
In private homes who were interested to hear what the situation is, what we could be doing. If I was trying to activate people that they should join a committee, or that they should put their home at the disposal of some meeting, of course there were a lot of private conversations. And it was much easier to talk freely in a private house than in an
Jewish house.
Jewish house than in an official meeting, yes.
That's certain. Did you get any assistance from Joint Distribution Committee for Jugend Aliyah in Germany or in the other countries?
We had one very morally encouraging assistance by the Joint sent a representative to Germany, Mr. Glick, who through being an American had the possibility to approach and talk to people, Nazis in high positions, to whom we could have never talked. Financially, the Joint came in only much, much later.
When?
And it was mainly indirectly through HITSEM, when we needed the fares for people to bring them here. And I remember that from London I had a lot of negotiations with HITSEM, which was at the time an arm of the Joint.
After 38?
That was after 38, yes.
Hmm.
The Joint at that time, as far as I remember, was not yet at all active in Palestine. That the Joint came into Israel and really on a big scale, that is a much later development.
Mm.
It was, if I'm not mistaken, mainly after the state was created.
No, after the war.
Maybe after the war, yes.
No,
yes,
yeah, after 45.
Yeah.
After 45. Joint helped Aliyah Bet and Bricha.
With money for the
With money
for the ships, yes?
for the ship, not directly, but he organized the feeding of the people on the way. Yeah? But you didn't get money from the Joint in Germany.
In Germany, no.
But later you get some help.
At my time in Germany, the Joint was still looked upon mainly as non-Zionist, if not anti-Zionist.
I understand. Okay.
But later when I was in London, then I had a lot of contact with the John too. And then they were already much more flexible.
Did you have some contact with very important Zionist leaders?
Well, I worked with Mrs. Weizmann, and through her I had often contact with Professor Weizmann. But with Mrs. Weizmann I worked together in Holland already when I came from Germany. But the daily cooperation with her developed later on in London, and through her I was, in Great Russell Street I was at home. And Mr. Locker and Nemia and all these people.
More in England, not in Germany so much.
In Germany, there was a Zionist Federation. They